Am I the a-hole for admitting to my husband that I wasn't actually happy on our wedding day? Would I be the a-hole if I didn't let my brother's girlfriend have her baby at my house? Am I the a-hole for not defending my girlfriend? Am I the a-hole for admitting to my husband that I wasn't actually happy on our wedding day? I, 30 female, have been with my husband for 7 years and married for 4 of them. I love him, and I am genuinely happy with our marriage and the life we've built together with our children. I was happy the day he proposed. I was happy during our honeymoon. We've had our ups and downs ever since, but overall, I would say that I was happy. Although, I wasn't happy during the planning and actual wedding. Why? Because it wasn't the wedding I wanted. A few months into the engagement, my husband's grandmother was diagnosed with cancer and was expected to live long. Our wedding was predicted to be the last big family event that she would ever attend. Of course, I felt sad and was more than willing to change the date of the wedding to better suit her needs. But what I was not expecting was that it would become her wedding, and I was to be treated like a figure on a play set. She picked out the venue, the color scheme, the food, music, the flowers, and even my dress. It all started out as subtle suggestions, but when I started to try and put my foot down, I was called a heartless bridezilla who couldn't honor a dying woman's request. And the fact that they were paying very little into the actual wedding would be an AH to bring up. After a fight, my husband was told to reconsider the engagement if I couldn't do this one thing, and how a wedding was more important to me than actually becoming a part of the family. Knowing that I'd never win, I sat in my car and cried for an hour, mourning the loss of the wedding I wanted, and in the end, let the in-laws have their way. I didn't attend further meetings to discuss the planning and left both the bridal shower and bachelorette party early. Once the actual day, I swallowed my disappointment and just went through the motions. Since then, my sister and best friend each had their weddings, and I was MOH for both and was excited each time. I took my role very seriously and had a lot of fun. My cousin is getting married and asked me to be her MOH, and I jumped at the chance. Recently, I've been spending hours on the phone, Zoom, putting together a planning binder. My husband took note of my enthusiasm and made a joke about missing that energy on our day and brushed it off. After that, I cut down on my wedding planning and his presents, but he wouldn't let up, citing that we don't keep any wedding photos out, that I got rid of my dress as soon as I could, and how I looked so much more happy at someone else's wedding than our own. He wouldn't let up, and eventually we got into a fight, where I finally confessed that while I love him, I hated our wedding. My husband is now hurt and giving me the silent treatment. Am I the a-hole?
And giving that up is a huge deal. My oldest cousin's wedding was the last event my grandmother made it to. We all knew it. It was the only grandchild she was going to see married. She didn't demand a single thing. The only thing my cousin and his wife did was have a hybrid ceremony, Buddhist with some Christian prayer thrown in there for her, and she covered her tattoos. But even that wasn't a "you have to do this or else." My other aunt tried to insert herself about how things should be for the family and grandmother, and was promptly shut down by my mother, my aunt's husband, mom's brother, and the oldest son of my grandmother, and my grandmother. And she had a fantastic time. She was happy, and that was all that mattered to all of us. My cousin was happy, which was the most important. My husband is now hurt and giving me the silent treatment. Info: is he actually giving you silent treatment? Or is he simply processing the knowledge that he and his family pressured you into something you didn't want and ruined your day? If he was still trying to call you selfish for expecting your wedding to be about you and is punishing you for that, he would definitely be the asshole. But it may just be that he is rewriting the memory in his head, and that shit takes time. This may be the first time he's actually realizing that wasn't it a wonderful wedding, we got to get married and celebrate. Grandma was not what happened, and the truth is closer to my family. Bullied my wife into giving up her milestone event and making her a mere extra at her own wedding, and only now that I'm seeing other weddings and how happy my wife is at other people's weddings do I realize how much she and I were both robbed. NTA every time you tried to have something of your wedding for yourself, you were gaslit with guilt to make you conform to what they wanted. You're allowed to be upset over that. Your husband still doesn't understand this. Tell him. Shoe on the other foot antipathetically, it's my mom is dying and everything you want for our wedding is denied because it's not what she wants. She picks the color, your suit, every important detail, and you're not allowed to have an opinion because she's dying. You're basically a doll that's getting dressed up and going through the motions of a day that you thought you would have had more of a hand in, considering it's your damn wedding. Then try and see it from my point of view. My consternation meter is off the charts. You made a huge sacrifice for the sake of your husband's family, but in his mind it wasn't a sacrifice, just a thing you needed to do to avoid being a Bridezilla. Then he noted your lack of enthusiasm on your wedding day enough to log it mentally, but not in a way that made him want to ask you if anything was wrong, let alone connect the dots and say, oh, she's not as joyous as she might be. Because our entire wedding has been commandeered for my grandmother, I should tell my wife that her sacrifice really means a lot to me. Now he's finally noticed that you really enjoy wedding planning, and instead of saying, oh, I now realize how much you love wedding planning, I appreciate the sacrifice you made on our special day, no, instead he's using it as an opportunity to needle you for it. Yeesh. And after you told him the reason why you were less enthused about your own wedding because he asked, he has the unmitigated gall to give you the silent treatment. You are definitely NTA here. I'm sad to say he's not coming off very good here. Hugs to you.
Would I be the a-hole if I didn't let my brother's girlfriend have her baby at my house? I'm posting anonymously for privacy reasons. My brother has made a really weird request of me. He asked me if him and his girlfriend could use my house to give birth at. I didn't even know what he was getting at first, but he explained to me that their apartment doesn't have a bathtub, is too small for an inflatable pool, and it would attract too much attention if the birth was there, and the neighbors will likely call the authorities. I have a house instead of an apartment, and I have a bathtub and more room than them. My brother thinks I should be honored about this. I thought this was so weird. I thought they would go to the hospital like is normal, but they haven't used a doctor at all. So I have no idea how it works and if the hospital would ask who their doctor is. My brother said I don't have to be there if I feel uncomfortable. I don't have a problem with him or his girlfriend, but I feel strange at the thought of leaving the two of them alone with my house. I'm a guy and I don't have kids, so I admit to no experience in this area. But I'm also worried something could go wrong because neither my brother or his girlfriend are doctors or have any medical training. My brother and his girlfriend have been saying how upset they'll be if I say no, that the mother being comfortable is what's most important and I shouldn't deny her, and that I'll look like a jerk if I turn down their request because they don't have a backup house. I just don't get why they can't go to the hospital, even though I have not said it. My mom also hinted one time to me it would be a nice thing to do. Would I be the a-hole if I didn't let them use my house for the birth? Because it makes me feel weird and uncomfortable, and I would prefer they use a hospital.
As a former doula, any doula that would support an unattended home birth is a liability who likely operates outside their scope of practice and should not be trusted. I would suggest at the OP tell them to find a standalone birth center staffed by nurses and midwives with hospital admitting privileges. Homebirth can be safe, but a safe unattended homebirth is just plain dumb luck. Personally, I would not want to give birth at a hospital unless I had to, but I live in an area with a lovely birth center. They need to have a midwife, preferably a certified nurse midwife. That's a licensed medical professional. I can't even fathom what would cause someone able to get medical care to forego that in pregnancy. Hard agree. Lots of babies come in the middle of the night, so you could be woken up to be made to leave your house so they can have a home birth that I feel weird calling a home birth as it isn't their home, and you'd be on call waiting for it to happen. And not just for a few weeks. They haven't even seen a doctor to get a due date for the baby. You could be on call for a long time if they are wrong about when baby is due. Also want to add that giving birth is messy. This is their first child, so will they be prepared for the mess? Are they really going to have enough of their own towels down to not get anything on your stuff? Because I can almost guarantee that you'd be cleaning up since they will have a newborn. And if everything goes okay, how long after until they will leave? Giving birth is exhausting. Are they going to hop straight in the car home or hang around a bit? And what if there's problems during the birth? Are they, and possibly you, going to view your home as part of their trauma of it? What if it's twins or triplets and they don't have a second car carrier with them and have to spend more time at yours? There are so many possible surprises, good and bad, that can happen during birth that mean you can't really know what you are agreeing to. Ooh, fun fact: CPS can't get involved until after the child is born. Unless the baby is born with defects that are the direct result of neglect, or if the baby is withdrawing from something, they're not getting involved. The only issue is that OP's brother and SIL are not seeking medical care and are freebirthing. This can cost SIL and their child's lives should they choose a home birth. Due to their state, they're not allowed to have doctors or midwives present at a home birth for some bizarre reason. The parents-to-be don't appear to be educated on the subject of birth or complications. They don't even know her due date because they've received no medical care at all. Hopefully they'll get some form of care prior to delivery. OP, do not allow them to use your home. Tell them it's a non-option and they'll need to find other accommodations for their home birth. Well, I'm a huge fan of being upfront and telling the truth. I'd lie in your shoes. I'd say I called my home insurance company and that they told you that it's a liability and not covered. As a result, you'd be 100% at fault, and that's not something you're comfortable with. I'd recommend that they look for a local midwife and birthing center just to ensure that there were no foreseeable complications. If they don't, and your SIL and their child die, that's on them. That's their decision, and because they're adults, there is nothing you can do except not lend them your home to have a medically unassisted. YWNBTA CPS needs to be contacted as well. This is insane. Also, your SIL could literally die. This is dumb. I have 4 kids, and I almost bled to death twice, and 2 of my kids were born with a cord around their neck and required help from a doctor. This is their first kid and there's been no ultrasounds. Your SIL could have the placenta covering the opening to the birth canal, and that could be deadly. The baby could be breech, the baby could facing the wrong way, SIL could have anatomy that makes labor difficult or impossible, and either she or the baby could both pass. There's about a million reasons why this is a terrible idea, and in many places this is illegal.
Am I the a-hole for not defending my girlfriend? One of my best friends, Ben, male 26, and his GF, Claire, female 26, invited my male 29 and my GF, female 29, for dinner to meet her for the first time. They asked her where she is from. Ben, Claire, and I live in the capital of the country. GF lives in a city in a surrounding area 1 hour away. Context: in our country, people from the capital tend to have a prejudice against people who live out of it. Ben and Claire are also originally from a surrounding city, but they live in a fancy area in the capital now, and were shocked that she lives so far and has to travel by public transport for over an hour to see me. My GF just shrugged. Ben and Claire have a roasting kind of humor and I'm used to it. They roasted me during dinner and the 3 of us laughed. My GF didn't. Ben asked my GF if she had traveled abroad because he didn't want to have a rich kid conversation in front of a poor person. My GF said yes, just one, and Claire said, "Then you can't sit with us," and laughed. Ben explained that he and Claire traveled abroad many times. At one point, Claire made a comment to my GF about how nice it must be not having to think about what to cook, as she still lives with her parents. It's a sore subject for her. My GF said, yeah, weekly, and was pretty quiet throughout dinner. Afterwards, I thanked her for coming and meeting my friend and she was quiet. Later on, she said she felt attacked with rude comments under the pretense that it's just joking, and that I should have seen that she was uncomfortable and should have defended her. I know Ben and Claire were not ill-intended, but I feel bad my GF had a bad time and I didn't notice. Am I the a-hole?
YTA, but I wonder when OP started normalizing his friend's rude and crappy behavior. There is nothing that shouts low class more than using a perceived economic advantage to embarrass someone else. They disrespected GF, and she saw them for what they are, shallow, crass and rude. It sounds like OP has been in an emotionally abusive relationship with these so-called friends for years to the point where OP thinks it's normal. It's not, it's rude, at least GF has awareness. I think OP should be taking steps to redefine the relationship or start stepping away. I'd say confront them, but I bet they are so egocentric that they think it's all good fun. If you have to put other people down to feel good about yourself, then you are morally bankrupt. Finally, if OP thinks they respect him, then he needs to ask himself why. If this is the case, would they go out of their way to make GF feel crappy? That's not respect. It's not for OP or his GF. I had this happen to me with a guy I was seeing when he invited me to visit him basically on the other side of the country and then took me to meet his best friends from high school. Except it was the opposite. They made fun of my nickname, which is a pretty standard name, teased me about wearing a dress, and were rude about the fact that I went to a fancier school than they did. The nicest thing they said was when I was singing along to a song, and they commented that I have a nice voice, but then even that turned into them being rude about my interests. And he just sat there and let them do it and then ignored me the rest of the night. I like to think I'm a pretty humble and low-maintenance person, and it just made me sad that they were judging me for something I'd never judge someone for on either end. Needless to say, it didn't work out between us. YTA. You had already noticed your girlfriend didn't laugh when they roasted you, and you described her weak response about living with her parents. So your claim that you didn't notice she was uncomfortable rings pretty false, and you took no action to shield your girlfriend from your friend's shitty behavior. And it was shitty. I say this as someone who definitely has friends with whom I have a teasing relationship, but those relationships are built over time. Jumping straight into really harsh, cruel banter with someone you've just met is something only a fool would do, or an asshole who doesn't care about or actively wants to hurt the other person. Apologize to your girlfriend. Do better in the future. Don't set up any more double dates with Ben and Claire unless they express an interest in apologizing and trying to reset the relationship with your GF, and then only if your GF truly wants to. If it were me, I'd seriously reconsider my friendship with Ben and Claire if they would choose to treat someone I cared about like that. TLDR, they knew, you Ben Claire were all assholes, and your girlfriend deserves an apology from all three of you. I'm confused. By your own account of things, you seem to have noticed all the signs of someone being uncomfortable. You just chose to ignore them because speaking up would put you in an awkward position with your friends. You even knew that she had a sore spot about living at home, and you still said nothing when they made a jab at that. Your friends were unkind and mocked your girlfriend in front of you, and you accepted and allowed it. YTA, and I feel so sorry for your girlfriend having to go through that experience and now having the knowledge that you do not have her back and you will not even stand up for her against your own friends that you choose to keep around.